Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Central Intelligence. I'm Emily Beach.
And I'm Annalise Swords. This week we investigate a new mini golf place opening soon in Springfield. We also dive into local music downtown.
Stay tuned for these stories and more because this is CI.
Some of Central students and teachers recently attended a film festival in Columbia.
Amy Demir and Nick Wiley bring you the True False Film Festival.
The annual True False Film Festival took place last March 2nd to 5th.
So the True False Film Festival has gone on for 14 years in Columbia, Missouri.
And True False is only for documentaries. It's not about feature films.
Thousands of people flock to Columbia every year for it.
True False serves to champion independent cinema and bring together the best of the documentary film world for one 4-day weekend.
You're supposed to consume whatever movie that you're watching, and then you're supposed to dictate yourself, is this true or is it false?
The festival creates a unique and immersive environment for its attendants.
Documentary filmmaking is just really universal. There's a lot of international documentaries.
Film can be a great chance to see different cultures and empathize with different people from all over the world.
And you see that you can build these temporary communities around just this vague interest in movies.
Every film comes with a representative from the film, usually the director, and every film is followed by a Q&A with that representative.
I saw a really interesting film 2 years ago, and for that one, the main star, if you can have a star of a documentary, because it was a political documentary, was actually in hiding because there was a death sentence out on him. But they Skyped with him, and so we got to see him live. We saw his story, and then we got to see him and ask him questions. And that's pretty amazing to see that kind of, talk about, a local community go global.
It's always really neat when the directors are there and you can ask them questions. You see them on the street.
When I was going to get lunch, we walked by a director of a documentary called Dina.
I stopped and talked to 2 or 3 different directors just this weekend, just to say thank you for the work that they do.
It's also been really fun to attend the True Life Fund film every year.
They identify one film a year for which they do fundraising to help the families in them or the stories in them.
True False works to reach out to students, and it creates many learning opportunities for them.
This festival, I guess in Springfield specifically, it's going to be your only option to go and see a real film festival.
How unusual is it to have an international film festival 2 hours away?
Students from across the nation are also invited to attend True False as part of a workshop about documentary filmmaking.
It began with high school students who were interested in doing a more intensive route through the festival. So our students will see sometimes anywhere between 6 to 8 to 10 films, and they'll meet with filmmakers and they'll go to different educational events.
To learn more about the festival, you can visit their website, truefalse.org. Signing off for Central Intelligence, this has been Nick Wiley as videographer and Amy Demir reporting.
A bond issue is occurring in hopes to improve some of the Springfield Public Schools facilities.
Michael Lee and Kaylee Sun investigate Proposition SPS.
With 78% of SPS facilities originally constructed more than 50 years ago, it's not hard to imagine that many of the district's buildings are outdated. To improve and update these facilities, the citizens of Springfield are asked to vote on Proposition SPS.
Well, it is a bond issue that Springfield School District voters will be asked to review on Tuesday, April 4. And what it does is address some pretty dramatic needs in school facilities or around the district. The impact to the voter, I think, is minimal. The average Springfield household. The increase is $2 a month in the first year. In my opinion, it is a very insignificant amount to really provide quality schools for kids.
In my opinion, I wouldn't be really happy if I was a taxpayer, but I think most taxpayers would be okay with giving money, especially when it's for the well-being of schools, fixing up problems like certain areas in schools. Overall, I really like the idea of it. You know, a lot of our schools are kind of run down and it's been really outdated, and so I think that this was well in time for it.
While the general goal of improving school facilities has gained praise, concerns have been raised about the allocation of these resources, specifically with Kickapoo High School receiving $8.7 million.
Kickapoo just got a renovation over their commons area, and I think that they could have used some of that money to make other repairs that they needed in the school during that same time.
I just don't think giving them $8.7 million is really worth it, because they really don't need much help. My friends at Kickapoo said that they don't even need much of the grant, because they're just using that money to install just a bunch of random stuff just because they have the money. You know, they've recently installed TVs in their lunchrooms, and they don't even use the TVs in the lunchrooms. It's kind of pointless.
So when it comes to Kickapoo being a rich school, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, because we do have a lot of funds, but they're not spread out as they should be. When it comes to sports, we almost overspend on that. Yes, having a lot of money is nice, but when we don't use it as well as we should be, then our students are going to suffer. There are a few things that I'd like to see improved. In our PSOB meetings, we kind of talk about what improvements need to happen, and the three main things that pop up are typically water fountains, the gym, and bathrooms. The whole student body realizes bleachers are super crappy, and that our school doesn't necessarily care about them. They're not going to want to participate in the assembly when people are called down. So obviously people aren't going to want to participate as much or have as much spirit.
Even though there has been contention about resources allocated to Kickapoo, the voters' general consensus remains the same.
My conviction is that quality communities invest in education. They invest in kids. And I think there's a direct correlation between those communities that invest in kids and education and those communities that are quality, successful communities. So I'm a firm believer you invest in kids. It's the workforce of tomorrow.
Fresher, cleaner, newer facilities, I think they just provide a higher incentive to pay attention.
Voting on Proposition SBS will take place on April 4th, 2017. Encouraging you to vote on this and other issues, this has been Michael Lee with videographer Kaylee Sun reporting.
A new mini golf place is opening soon in Springfield.
Cy Vuda and Levi Graham take you behind this new source of entertainment.
Though there are many fun activities in Springfield, one specific game is very limited in town. A facility is opening up a new mini golf course on East Sunshine in response to many of the competing mini golf courses in the Ozarks.
Mini golf can be a fun activity. I don't think it's something that a lot of people here play a whole lot because our courses aren't that great. Prior experiences have mostly come at Fun Acres, which is an older course in Springfield. It's pretty run down, dilapidated.
We used to go to the Fun Acres place, and that's getting kind of old, run down a little bit, and there's not a whole lot of places you can go in Springfield for mini golf.
I think it'll be fun to have a new mini golf course because it'll give us some variety.
Not only is mini golf a fun activity, it brings families and friends closer together and creates fond memories.
Back when I was younger, like 6 to 10 maybe, my dad and my stepmom would always take me down to this mini golfing place downtown. And so that's the only memory I have of it, but it is also a fond memory of that place with family.
My favorite thing about mini golf is that it's not as serious as real golf, so if my ball bounces off of the course or into the parking lot, it's no big deal.
We will probably be going there now that we have an opportunity and start that tradition back up again. Yeah, so I guess this new mini golf has opened opportunities for new family outings.
Signing off for Central Intelligence, this has been Cy Vuda and Levi Graham reporting.
Get up out of your desk and get a hands-on education at the OTC Career Center for high school juniors and seniors. There are 19 career paths to choose from, and it's free. Students earn college credit and they're prepared to get a job when they graduate. A hands-on education that helps you get a job or a jump start on college is what makes the OTC Career Center a unique high school experience. Talk to your high school counselor or visit otc.edu/career center to learn more.
With reported cases of the mumps around Springfield Public Schools district, the controversy of whether kids should or should not be vaccinated continues to grow.
Sabrina Allis and Lauren Seiko investigate this issue.
In the past few months, students within Springfield Public Schools have contracted a very contagious virus.
Several students, several SPS students actually contracted mumps.
There is one case in a high school. That child was not exposed to any students or staff members. It happened over winter break.
I personally would probably attribute it to the lack of vaccinations because the MMR vaccine is for measles, mumps, and rubella, and it doesn't change every year. So the fact that we would have an outbreak now would mean that something is different in the way we're treating it, and since the vaccine hasn't changed, I would say that less people are getting vaccinated.
As a result of these occurrences, the vaccination policy in place has been examined.
A vaccine does give them immunity against the disease, whether that's measles, mumps, rubella. Now, no vaccine is 100%. Or guarantees 100% immunity.
I know Springfield Public Schools is relatively strict when it comes to vaccinations.
All students in the schools do have to have their vaccines compliant with the state or they cannot attend public schools.
Although vaccines are required in SPS schools, there is exceptions to this rule.
One reason is a religious exemption. If the family has a religious reason that they do not want their child to have the vaccinations. The second reason is a medical reason, which would have to be a card signed by a physician.
Since there are those kids who physically can't receive the vaccines because they're allergic, that once you make that decision to not vaccinate yourself, it's not just you that's being affected.
It is within our Constitution that someone has the right not to inject themselves with a vaccine.
There are many ethical considerations that need to be considered, because obviously we live in America, which is a free country, and everyone should have the right to make their choice. However, if enough people opt out, then that basically makes everyone susceptible to the disease because there's going to be enough transmission.
I think the chance that someone contracts the disease and spreads it to more people would be lower if everyone had a vaccine, but I do believe that vaccines are not always 100% in preventing a breakout in the community.
Signing off for Central Intelligence, this has been Sabrina Allis and Lauren Seiko reporting.
Downtown Springfield is a place where many local musicians can express their talent.
Anna Skaliski and Cassie Parmenter dive into local music downtown.
You know, I started my first band in high school. Actually, I started my first band in middle school. We were really great, as you can imagine.
Downtown Springfield is home not only to many coffee shops and restaurants, but also a vibrant local music scene that adds to the culture of our community.
There's a lot of different people with a lot of different styles of music. I mean, there's folk, there's more there's rock, I guess. There's like a lot of stuff that people like to play, and it really just depends on what you're into, and you'll probably find it here.
Getting to play music on stage with your friends is one of the most exciting things I can think of doing. I know like that terrifies some people, and sometimes it is scary, but I love it.
I think music is, you know, kind of like I said, it's like the voice of a community.
To get up on stage and kind of be able to show that to people, even if it's just your friends or other people, it's still a lot of fun.
Being in a band in Springfield isn't all fun and games.
I think Springfield has a challenging music scene when you try to make it into a career. We don't have the resources that a lot of places like LA or New York would have to make it as a full-time musician.
Since they've enacted what we called at the time the bar ban, but basically banning people under 18 from a lot of bars, it's a lot harder to get shows if you are under 18, I think.
Despite these challenges, the creativity of local artists inspires both musicians and members of the community.
Local music is important because it brings people together and it gives people to talk about, something to talk about in the town, and you know, something to gather around, I guess. And it's like a common ground for everyone to just, you know, enjoy something.
Any arts are important to a community. You have to have that creativity and that culture, or else your city is just sort of boring.
I think it's important for people to have the opportunity to show their talents, locally, and if they have the opportunity nationally or globally. It has to start somewhere. So if you don't start in your own community, then you won't get anywhere. So
we're so lucky to have it. And if you don't get out and see it, you don't know that, and then it dies, and we need you to come out and hear us.
Encouraging you to support local musicians, this has been Cassie Parmenter, videographer, and Anna Skaliski reporting.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of Central Intelligence.
Be sure to check out other stories and more on our website, chscinews.com. Also like us on Facebook, tweet us, and follow us on Instagram at @CHS_CI.
We will see you again in 2 weeks.